beat New Pokemon Snap over the weekend, somewhere along the way confirming a suspicion that I had about the game when Pokemon Company initially announced it at the end of last year. New Pokemon Snap is the best Pokemon game I've ever played. Full stop, no competition really. Yes, I played all the mainline games. No, this isn't a clickbait made up take. Let's talk about it. Whenever I see people discuss Pokemon Snap, new or old, fan or not, they describe the perceived appeal as being about taking pictures of Pokemon. And while taking pictures of all the cute and or cool fantastical creatures is part of what is great about this series, the actual draw is observing how they interact in the world. Taking the picture is a means to that end, which honestly is very similar to the gameplay of the mainline games. There are actually more layers to the gameplay than that, and they all contribute to the quality and overall appeal of the series. And New Pokemon Snap enhanced the existing layers from that original game and added new ones to boot. On the whole, much like the original Pokemon Snap, the gameplay loop starts with you as a pseudo-customized character, which, side note, seriously, do better. I get this is a game primarily made by Japanese developers for Japanese people, but it is being sold to a global audience, so it should do its due diligence to represent those people in the games that they play as well. If I start the game and there's an option to customize my character, why do people that don't look like me get to have a stand-in for what they look like or close enough, but I have to go totally left field other than the bare minimum of skin tone? This is an important issue that I always feel the need to bring up because it's important to me and I'm sure many others, but ultimately I digress. This character rides in a Neo 1 armed with a camera looking for interesting Pokemon behavior to observe and photograph. The first evolution of the original gameplay begins when these photos are then given a star rating based on the rarity of the action, or lack thereof, depicted in these photos, and then graded in a very similar way to the original, but this time instead of being evaluated by Professor Oak, they're evaluated by Professor Mirror, who, I might add, I don't trust one bit after he told me several blatant lies. You mean to tell me this is tag? Because I don't know about you, but this to me looks like a Sharpedo chasing down an innocent child with the intent to tear them limb from limb. But I'm not the certified professor here, so I'll move on for now. Much like the N64 game, evaluations are based on a Pokemon's pose, size, other Pokemon captured in the photo, although this time around that includes different species of Pokemon as well, in addition to more metrics like the direction and placement of the Pokemon as well as the background of the overall image. Maximizing all of this in every star rating, which I want to stress is not a grade because I saw a lot of people get upset in content that they made about this game that they're getting low grades for pictures that are composed well. All it is a tier of activity or interesting behavior that, if you hope to capture it, will likely require the use of the additional tools and abilities that you unlock as you progress through the campaign. The first of which being the brand new scan feature that provides you with all of the necessary information to play through the game efficiently if that's your thing, or more importantly, if you're like me, to use as another method for facilitating new interactions or reactions with Pokemon, as a lot of them have some sort of response to the scanner that make for interesting photos. Next up is a returning classic, Apples, which in another move that makes me suspicious of his character and acumen as a professor, Professor Mirror claims are actually some sort of new thing called Fluff Fruit. Fluff Fruit, I don't give a fuck what the game calls them, they're apples, dude. We can all see them with our own two eyes. These are clearly apples. Strike two from Mirror. These can be used to get the attention of Pokemon aggressively or otherwise, lead Pokemon toward or away from things, and to afford you the opportunity to document Pokemon eating these totally not apples. Finally, Lumina Orbs, the new family-friendly replacement for throwing balls laced with toxic fumes at Pokemon, also happen to have story significance as they're tied to the Lumina Pokemon, which I won't get into beyond saying they're a clever way to inject some significance into a couple of Pokemon that otherwise don't typically get the most shine. Mostly. But anyways, I will say the Lumina Orbs are the one aspect of the game that I don't completely like the way they were handled. Unlike the Pester Balls in the original game, they're not a tool that you unlock in a one and done sort of way, but rather something that needs to be unlocked again and again in each individual area for use in the associated levels within a region. This isn't an inherently bad thing, or at least it wouldn't have been if they actually differed in their purpose beyond their color. If they made Pokemon react differently or had some sort of different properties, I'd understand, but the way they ended up working in this game just serve as padding, and I don't think it needs that, to be completely honest. Beyond that, the Neo 1 gets upgrades of its own, like the boost option, and your camera even gets an upgrade after beating the game. All of this to say, the game's tools do plenty to add depth and breadth to the experience, and I appreciate that a lot. Even more than that though, some of the strongest aspects of this game are its Metroidvania-like mechanic, like the area leveling that brings with it more new Pokemon to discover and new behavior to discover from the Pokemon that were present in earlier levels, thanks to the trust they gain by seeing you explore their environment in previous expeditions. The ability to discover alternate paths within areas to find even more Pokemon, or different angles of the same Pokemon you've seen in the default routes. The day and night variants of most of the areas in the game, which much like the mainline games allow for you to find a different selection of nocturnal Pokemon, and unlike the mainline games, many of their diurnal counterparts as they sleep. And the puzzle solving that adds to the gameplay end of it and opens the game up further as you move on. All of this makes it hard to describe the exact genre of New Pokemon Snap. It's a puzzle game, it's an adventure game, it's a Metroidvania, something that I think should be better represented in the mainline Pokemon games as well, because Pokemon is that vast of a universe. There's so many aspects of it that could be gamified, and honestly, I think should be. The most popular praise to send New Pokemon Snap's way on the internet is that the game is gorgeous, not just for a Pokemon game, but a Nintendo Switch game in general, which is actually saying a lot because the Pokemon franchise isn't, nor has it ever been, one known for setting the bar for technical prowess or impressive visuals. And while I appreciate that fact, I actually don't really care all that much about the feeds and speeds ends of graphics, if you couldn't tell by the fact that I prefer playing the Nintendo Switch over my Xbox Series X or PlayStation 4 in the first place. But I do think this game's visuals are an important piece to the puzzle in regards to the assertion in the title, as they do contribute a lot to what I feel this game does better than every Pokemon game has done to date, realizing the promise of the Pokemon world. This goes from things as minor as the heart-shaped scales on Love Disc's 3D model to bigger attention to detail efforts like the fact that apples stick to cacti as spikes. Pokemon games in the past have flirted with attention to detail, albeit on a much lower level and in a smaller way, usually in extras like Pokemon Camp, or prior to that Pokemon Refresh or a Me, but this is the first time this level of care was put into the game with the intent to use it for more than just a minigame, but rather the core driving force of the gameplay. And while that's a given for Pokemon Snap, I do think moving this format into the modern era was what not only made for a better Snap game, but also a glimpse at what the Pokemon game should strive to be as well. It's pretty similar to how Rockstar will develop a game like table tennis or whatever and then implement that mechanic into a Grand Theft Auto game. I've said it in multiple videos up until now, but I would love to see Bandai Namco join the Pokemon mainline game team in a similar way to how they help out with a lot of other Nintendo games. This game, though, does have a story that involves the Lumina Pokemon, but much like every other Pokemon game, arguably most Nintendo games in general, it by no means is anything to write home about. It makes the game moderately more immersive than the original was, but it doesn't do much beyond that. I will say there's potential for interesting world building and additional lore here, but that's the usual for Pokemon games. Not really saying much, not really worth focusing a big portion of the video on. If you're a high score oriented kind of gamer, or even a little bit of a completionist, this setup combined with the sheer amount of Pokemon present in the game will account for the length of the original many times over. I personally took over 15 hours to clear the campaign, though I will note that while playing the game, I did more of a completionist sort of run where certain levels I opted to get at least to 3 stars before I moved on. Even after all of that time put into the game, I intend to return to the game regularly to complete my photo decks, get interesting photos, discover cool interactions with Pokemon, get so many shots to use in thumbnails for future Pokemon videos, like, comment, and subscribe to see those, by the way, and also stream the game. I might even start a new file just for those streams. I want to stress that I appreciate this game for what it is. It has more than enough content to be worth its asking price and be worth the wait, in my opinion. But this game could very well facilitate some awesome DLC that, if Pokemon Company wanted to go full on Galaxy Brain, could be used as a method to partially offset additional investments in mainline games. I previously talked about how Game Freak could repurpose resources from New Pokemon Snap in the games they create, and DLC in this game could allow them to leverage Nintendo's relationship with Bandai Namco to make even more resources that haven't already been made for the base game. If not that, they could at least continue to enhance the base game like Nintendo has done on several occasions, with the most recent example being the largely unexpected online update for Super Mario Party. Hell, even Bandai Namco contributed to this practice in their last Pokemon project in the form of Pokken Tournament DLC. And that was 3 years after the original game came out on Wii U. The things they could do in that DLC, I think, is pretty obvious. There's a lot of people asking for Labo VR support because why isn't that a built-in feature? The camera was literally perfect for that. They could add more areas, even a whole new region outside of Lentil, which is why I brought up the whole thing about if they add a new region to Pokemon Snap, those Pokemon could then be ported to mainline Pokemon games if they used a similar art style. Of course, there's no actual precedent to suggest this level of post-release support, and I know people are going to say that's not like Pokemon Company or whatever, but this generation is demonstrating every day that nothing is a standard until it is or isn't. So I'm just going to put that hope into the universe, and you guys can do with it what you wish. Pokemon is such a vast universe with so many iconic, varied character designs with decades of interesting lore and world building that in most other video game media based around the property is criminally underrepresented. New Pokemon Snap is a high point for building a game around the world rather than making a light version of an existing genre to facilitate a version of the same thing. New Pokemon Snap is now my personal favorite Pokemon game because I love Pokemon for the world it built. The games have always been a necessary evil that I have felt for a long time were simply as close as I could ever get to engaging in it, not something that I loved for what they were. New Pokemon Snap changed that, and I hope the mainline games see this example and build from it, not just in its visuals like people have been saying since New Pokemon Snap's reveal, but in its reverence to the world beyond telling and not showing more often than not. But those are my thoughts. What do you think about New Pokemon Snap so far? Do you agree with my assessment? Do you fall somewhere in the middle, or did you completely hate the game and hope that they never make another one or any Pokemon game anything like it ever again? Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, I would appreciate it if you shared it with a friend that also likes Pokemon, especially if they have pretty strong opinions about Pokemon, dissenting or otherwise, I guess. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and ring the bell for more videos like this every Tuesday and Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. We have a podcast, we stream, all that stuff is linked in the description and/or on the end card that you're looking at right now. Okay, that's it for me. See you next week.